The hallway smelled like floor wax and teenage dreams. Ellie Morgan stood in front of locker 247, her fingers trembling as they traced the combination lock. 17 years old. Senior year. 3 days until graduation. The letter in her hand felt heavier than paper should feel. She had rewritten it 4 times. The first version was too desperate. The second, too casual. The third tried to be funny and failed. This fourth one, folded into a small square in her palm, simply told the truth. Nathan, I've been trying to find the right moment to say this for 3 years. I don't think there will ever be a right moment. So here it is. I think about you all the time. The way you laugh at your own jokes, the way you always smell like old books and coffee, the way you see the world like it's a story waiting to be written. I'm leaving for Seattle in August, and I can't leave without you knowing. Even if nothing comes of this, even if you don't feel the same way, you should know. Down the hallway, Nathan Pierce leaned against his own locker, talking to Sarah Chen. They were laughing about something. Nathan's head thrown back, Sarah touching his arm. The easy way old friends touched each other. Ellie's hand tightened around the letter. She watched them for another moment. Nathan in his worn leather jacket that was too big for him. Sarah in her perfect cheerleader uniform, hair catching the fluorescent light like it was staged for a movie. They looked like they belonged in the same frame, the same world. Ellie looked down at her own clothes, Goodwill jeans, her mother's old cardigan with the loose button she kept meaning to fix, shoes held together by hope and duct tape hidden under the tongues. She opened her own locker number 189 and placed the letter inside, behind her calculus textbook, behind the mirror she never looked into, behind everything. Then she closed the door. The sound of metal hitting metal echoed down the empty hallway, swallowing the words she would never say. 15 years later, Ellie Morgan stood in front of locker 247 again. The hallway still smelled like floor wax, but the teenage dreams were long gone, replaced by something heavier. Something that tasted like regret and red wine and the divorce papers she had signed 6 months ago. Lincoln High School had kept the old lockers as some kind of nostalgic installation. A hallway frozen in time while the rest of the building got renovated into something sleek and modern. The reunion committee thought it was charming. A photo opportunity, a chance to remember who they used to be before life got complicated. Ellie wasn't sure she wanted to remember. She had almost skipped this reunion. The invitation had sat on her kitchen counter in Seattle for 3 weeks, gathering coffee rings and doubt. Class of 2009 15-year reunion. She had thrown it away twice. Fished it out of the trash twice. Finally decided to come at the last possible moment, driving down to Portland with nothing but a weekend bag and a full tank of gas she might use to turn around and drive back. But here she was, in front of locker 247, her fingers working the combination lock like muscle memory never forgot. 27, 15, 8. The lock clicked open. Inside the locker was exactly as she'd left it. The school had preserved these as time capsules. There was her calculus textbook cover torn. The mirror she never looked into now dusty. A photo of her and Sarah taped to the door, both of them younger than she could remember being. And behind everything, a piece of paper folded into a small square. Ellie's breath caught. She reached in with trembling fingers and pulled it out. Unfolded it slowly like it might disintegrate. Her own handwriting stared back at her, 17 years old again, still full of hope. Nathan, I've been trying to find the right moment. They kept these old things, huh? The voice came from behind her, deep, familiar in a way that made her spine straighten and her pulse forget its rhythm. Ellie turned. Nathan Pierce stood 3 feet away, 33 years old now, but still with that same slightly crooked smile, still wearing a leather jacket, though this one actually fit. His dark hair had threads of gray at the temples. His eyes carried weight they didn't have at 17. But when he smiled, really smiled, he looked exactly the same. Ellie Morgan, he said, not a question, just her name spoken like he'd been practicing it. Nathan Pierce, she replied, shoving the letter behind her back like a teenager caught passing notes. You came back too. I never left. The words hung between them. She knew what he meant. Nathan had stayed in Portland. Stayed at Lincoln High teaching English literature to kids who probably didn't appreciate him the way they should. While she had run to Seattle, built a career in architecture, Married a man whose last name she could barely remember now, and spent 15 years trying to forget the boy she'd loved in high school. "You're a teacher here," she asked, though she already knew. Facebook stalking at 2 in the morning had told her everything his profile was willing to share. "English department," Nathan confirmed. He moved closer and she could smell something familiar. Coffee, old books. "You're an architect in Seattle." "Was," Ellie corrected. "I mean, I still am, but I'm between things right now. Between jobs, between marriages, between the person she was and the person she thought she'd become." Nathan's eyes flickered to her left hand, no ring. His own hand was also bare. The observation passed between them like a secret they were both pretending not to notice. "What's that?" Nathan nodded at her hand still hidden behind her back. "Nothing, just old stuff." Ellie tried to sound casual, failed. "You know how it is, nostalgia." "Can I see? It's really nothing." Nathan stepped closer, not invading her space, but close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Close enough to make her heart do that stupid thing it used to do in high school whenever he walked past her in the hallway. "Ellie," he said softly, "you're a terrible liar. You always have been." She was. She knew she was. So she brought her hand forward and showed him the letter. Still folded, but he could probably guess what it was. Nathan stared at it for a long moment. "Did you write that?" he asked. 15 years ago, I was going to give it to you before graduation." "But you didn't." "No." Ellie folded it again smaller, like she could make it disappear. "I lost my nerve. Saw you talking to Sarah and realized, I don't know, that we lived in different worlds or something. So I put it in my locker and forgot about it. Until tonight." Until tonight, Nathan was quiet, his expression unreadable in the dim hallway light. Then he reached into his own jacket pocket and pulled out a piece of paper, also folded, also yellowed with age. "Locker 247, he said, holding it up. "I just came from there before I found you here." Ellie's heart stopped. Nathan unfolded the paper and held it out to her. His handwriting, messy and urgent, covered the page. "Ellie, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't even know if I'll ever give it to you. But I need to write it down because if I don't, I think I'll explode. You're the only person who really sees me. Not the version I pretend to be at school. Not the guy who makes jokes to fill the silence. Just me. And I know you're leaving for Seattle, and I know I should be happy for you because that scholarship is everything you deserve. But I'm not happy. I'm terrified. Because what if I never meet anyone else who looks at the world the way you do? What if you're it for me and I'm too scared to tell you?" Nathan Ellie read it twice, then 3 times. The words blurred as her eyes filled with something she refused to name. "You wrote this," her voice came out smaller than she intended. 15 years ago, same week as you probably." Nathan took the letter back and refolded it carefully. "I never gave it to you either. Put it in my locker on graduation day and told myself it was for the best. You were going to Seattle. I was staying here. Different worlds, like you said." "Nathan, don't." He held up a hand, but he was smiling. That crooked, heartbreaking smile. "It's ancient history, right? We were kids. Kids who didn't know how to say what they meant." And now, the question slipped out before Ellie could stop it. She watched Nathan's expression shift. Something vulnerable flickering across his face before he could mask it. "Now," Nathan said slowly, "we're adults who probably still do not know how to say what we mean, but maybe we're better at trying." Down the hallway, music started playing. The reunion had officially begun in the gymnasium. Voices and laughter echoed toward them, growing louder, pulling them back to the present. Nathan extended his hand, old-fashioned, formal. "Want to try saying what we mean?" he asked. "Starting with, would you like to get out of this hallway and pretend we're interested in small talk with people we barely remember?" Ellie looked at his hand, at the letter still clutched in her own, at the boy she'd loved who had become a man she didn't know. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid and real. "Let's pretend," she said. They walked toward the gymnasium together. Neither of them let go. The Lincoln High Gymnasium had been transformed into something that was trying very hard to be classy, but landed somewhere closer to prom night with a budget. String lights crisscrossed the ceiling. Round tables with white tablecloths filled the space where they used to run laps during PE. A DJ played music that was popular when they were 17, as if nostalgia could be measured in playlist form. People clustered in groups. Some faces Ellie recognized immediately. Others had changed so much that she needed to check their name tags. Everyone was doing that same dance of trying to look successful without seeming like they were trying. Nathan's hand was still in hers. She wasn't sure if she was holding on or if he was, maybe both. Ellie Morgan. Oh my God. A woman with blonde hair and a name tag that said Amy Stevens Johnson appeared in front of them. Ellie vaguely remembered Amy from chemistry class. They'd been lab partners for exactly 3 weeks before Amy switched to sit with her boyfriend. Amy, Ellie said, forcing enthusiasm she didn't feel. You look great. So do you. And Nathan? Oh, wow, you two came together? We ran into each other, Nathan said smoothly. He squeezed Ellie's hand once, then let go. The absence of his touch felt like cold water. Amy launched into a monologue about her 3 kids and her husband, who was a dentist, and her new house in the suburbs. Ellie nodded in the right places, but her attention kept drifting across the gymnasium. Looking for someone. Is Sarah here? The question came out before Ellie could stop it. Amy's expression flickered with something. Pity maybe, or discomfort. Sarah Chin. Yeah, she's here somewhere. I think I saw her by the refreshment table. Amy lowered her voice conspiratorially. Did you hear about her and Nathan? Ellie's stomach dropped. She glanced at Nathan, but his face was carefully neutral. Hear what? Ellie asked. They dated for a while, few years ago. Everyone thought they'd get married, but Amy trailed off, realizing she'd said too much. Anyway, ancient history, right? I should go find my husband. So good to see you both. Amy disappeared into the crowd, leaving Ellie and Nathan standing in awkward silence. You and Sarah, Ellie said. Not a question. For 2 years, Nathan confirmed. He wasn't looking at her now. It ended 3 years ago. We're still friends, mostly. Why didn't it work? Nathan turned to look at her then. Really look at her, his eyes searching her face for something. Because I couldn't stop comparing her to someone else, he said quietly. Someone who left 15 years ago without saying goodbye. The music changed, something slow. Couples moved onto the makeshift dance floor. Ellie opened her mouth to respond, but Nathan was already turning away. I need a drink, he said. You want anything? Nathan, wait. But he was already walking toward the bar set up on the far side of the gymnasium, leaving her standing alone in the middle of all these people who used to know her, who used to be her friends, who were now strangers with familiar faces. Ellie pulled out her phone, checked her messages. Nothing important. A text from her realtor about the Seattle condo she was trying to sell. An email from her lawyer about finalizing the divorce paperwork. Another email from her ex-husband that she deleted without reading. You came. The voice was soft, familiar in a different way than Nathan's. Ellie looked up. Sarah Chen stood in front of her. Still beautiful, still effortlessly put together in a way that made Ellie feel like she was wearing her mother's old cardigan all over again. But there was something different in Sarah's expression, something swathed around the edges. Sarah, Ellie said. They stared at each other. 15 years of silence stretching between them like a canyon. I wasn't sure you'd come, Sarah said. I thought about texting you, but we haven't talked in 15 years. Yeah. More silence. The music played on. People laughed and danced and pretended they were still the kids they used to be. I'm sorry, Sarah said finally, for letting you disappear like that. I should have called. Should have, I don't know, been a better friend. Ellie's throat felt tight. I'm the one who left. You had a scholarship, a future. I understood that. Did you? Sarah's smile was sad. No, not really. I was hurt and angry, and then I just moved on, or tried to. She glanced across the gymnasium to where Nathan stood at the bar talking to someone Ellie didn't recognize. I saw you two earlier, in the hallway. We just ran into each other. Ellie, I know what just running into each other looks like when it comes to you and Nathan. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. I've known for 15 years. Known what? That you were in love with him. Sarah met Ellie's eyes. That he was in love with you. That I was the one standing in a space that was never really mine. Ellie's heart hammered against her ribs. Sarah, I know you never did anything. Neither did Nathan. You were both too good for that. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. But feelings don't need action to exist. They were just there, always there between you. You dated him. I did, and I loved him. Really loved him. Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. But he never looked at me the way he looked at you. Not once in 2 years. And when we broke up, you want to know what he said? He said he was sorry, that he tried, that he wished he could love me the way I deserved, but his heart was somewhere else, with someone else. Ellie couldn't breathe. The gymnasium suddenly felt too small, too hot, too full of everything she'd been running from for 15 years. I need air, she managed. Sarah nodded. There's a side door by the locker rooms, less crowded. Ellie didn't wait for more. She pushed through the crowd, past the people trying to recapture youth, past the DJ and the string lights, and the nostalgia that tasted like ash. She found the side door and burst through it into the cool Portland night. The air hit her lungs like salvation. She leaned against the brick wall, breathing hard, trying to remember how her heart was supposed to work. Behind her, the door opened again. Nathan stepped out, 2 plastic cups in his hands. He offered one to her without a word. Ellie took it. Some kind of punch that tasted like high school and regret. She drank it anyway. They stood in silence for a long time. The music from inside was muffled here. The parking lot stretched out in front of them, full of cars that belonged to people who had their lives together. Who knew how to come back to their hometown without falling apart? Sarah told you, Nathan said. Not a question. About you two dating, about why it ended. Did she tell you the whole truth? Ellie turned to look at him. What's the whole truth? Nathan set his cup down on the ground, ran a hand through his hair. That gesture she remembered from high school when he was trying to find the right words. The truth is I spent 15 years waiting for you to come back, he said. I dated other people. I tried to move on. I really tried with Sarah because she's amazing, and she deserves someone who could love her completely. But I couldn't, because every time I looked at her, I saw you. Every time she laughed, I wondered what your laugh sounded like after all these years. Every time we had a moment that should have been perfect, I was thinking about a girl who disappeared without saying goodbye. Nathan, and the really pathetic part, Nathan laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm a writer. I teach literature. I read love stories for a living. And I still couldn't figure out how to tell you that seeing you tonight, standing in front of that locker, holding a letter you wrote 15 years ago, it felt like every stupid romantic cliche I've ever rolled my eyes at. Like time stopped. Like nothing else mattered. Like I was 17 again and too scared to tell you the truth. Ellie's hands were shaking. The cup slipped from her fingers and hit the ground, punch spilling onto the asphalt like blood. What truth? She whispered. Nathan stepped closer, close enough that she could see every detail of his face in the parking lot lights. The lines around his eyes, the scar on his chin he'd gotten from a skateboarding accident in 10th grade. The way he was looking at her like she was a question he'd been trying to answer his entire life. That I'm still in love with you, Nathan said. That I never stopped. That I've been writing your name in the margins of my lesson plans and deleting it before anyone sees. That when I heard you might come tonight, I almost called in sick because I was too scared to see you. Too scared that you'd still be the same Ellie Morgan who saw through every defense I had. Or worse, that you'd be completely different. That 15 years would have turned you into a stranger. And Ellie's voice cracked. Am I a stranger? Nathan reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered against her cheek. Warm, real, impossible. No, he said softly, you're exactly the same person. And completely different. And I want to know everything about both versions. The door to the gymnasium burst open, music and laughter spilled out. Amy's voice called out, there you guys are. We're about to do the group photo. Neither Ellie nor Nathan moved. We should, Ellie started. Yeah, Nathan agreed, but still neither of them moved. Amy appeared in the doorway. Come on, they want everyone from our graduating class. We're coming, Nathan called back, not taking his eyes off Ellie. Amy disappeared back inside the door, closing behind her. Silence fell again. The kind of silence that felt like a held breath, like standing on the edge of something, like the moment before a leap. Ellie, Nathan said, did you mean it, what you wrote in that letter? She knew he meant the last line. Even if nothing comes of this, even if you don't feel the same way, you should know. Yes, she said. Do you still mean it? The question hung between them like a dare, and Ellie realized that she had a choice. She could lie, could say it was 15 years ago, ancient history teenage feelings that meant nothing now, could walk back into that gymnasium and pretend that seeing Nathan Pierce again didn't feel like finding a missing piece of herself she didn't know was lost. Or she could tell the truth. Yes, Ellie said again. I still mean it. Nathan's smile was slow, heartbreaking, full of 15 years of waiting. Good, he said, because I still mean mine too. He leaned in, slowly, giving her time to pull away, to change her mind, to run like she'd been running for 15 years. Ellie didn't run. Their lips met in the parking lot of Lincoln High School under the same Oregon sky they'd looked at as teenagers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like they were asking a question neither of them knew how to put into words. Then Nathan's hand came up to cup the back of her head, and Ellie's fingers clutched the front of his jacket, and the kiss deepened into something that tasted like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ellie rested her forehead against his. What do we do now? She asked. Nathan laughed softly. I have no idea. I didn't actually plan past this part. Very romantic. I'm a literature teacher, not a romance novelist. Ellie pulled back to look at him. Really look at him. At this man who was the same boy she'd loved and also someone entirely new. Nathan, she said seriously, I need you to know something. His expression shifted, guarded, like he was bracing for her to take it back, to run again. I left Seattle, Ellie continued. My job, my marriage, everything. I'm starting over, and I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know if I'm staying here or going back or moving somewhere completely different. My life is a mess right now. Okay, Nathan said carefully. So if we're doing this, whatever this is, you need to know that I'm not a sure thing. I'm a disaster in progress. Nathan smiled then, that crooked smile that had haunted 15 years of her dreams. Ellie, he said, I've been waiting 15 years. I think I can handle a little disaster. Inside the gymnasium, someone was calling their names again. The group photo was happening with or without them. We should probably, Ellie gestured toward the door. Probably, Nathan agreed. Neither of them moved. Then Nathan took her hand again, laced his fingers through hers like they'd been doing it for years instead of hours. Come on, he said. Let's go take a picture. Prove we were both here, that this is real. Is it real? Ellie asked. I don't know, Nathan said honestly, but I want to find out. They walked back into the gymnasium together, into the noise and the lights and the nostalgia, into a room full of people who thought they knew their story but didn't. Not really, because the real story was just beginning, and this time neither of them was going to run. Ellie woke up in her hotel room with her phone buzzing on the nightstand. The morning light filtered through the curtains soft and gray in that Pacific Northwest way. For a moment, she forgot where she was, forgot about the reunion, forgot about everything except the dreams she'd been having about parking lots and kisses and letters written 15 years ago. Then she saw the text message. Nathan Pierce Coffee. There's a place downtown that still makes that terrible cinnamon thing you used to love. Ellie stared at the screen, her heart doing that stupid thing again, where it forgot how to maintain a steady rhythm. He remembered. The cinnamon roll from Morrison's Bakery. She'd only mentioned it once, maybe twice back in high school. Some throwaway comment about how it was the only good thing about early morning study sessions. She typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, how do you remember that? The reply came immediately. I remember everything about you. Ellie sat up in bed, suddenly very awake. Her reflection in the mirror across the room looked like someone who'd been kissed in a parking lot by her high school crush. Hair messy, makeup smudged, eyes too bright. She looked like a disaster. She looked happy. Her phone buzzed again. Nathan, no pressure. If you need space to process last night, I understand. I just thought coffee sounded better than overthinking alone. Ellie smiled. Type back Morrison's in 30 minutes, Nathan. I'll be the one overthinking at the corner table. The bakery looked exactly the same as it had 15 years ago. Same red brick exterior, same hand-painted sign, same smell of sugar and butter and coffee that hit you the moment you opened the door. Nathan was already there sitting at the corner table by the window. He had 2 cups of coffee in front of him and a brown paper bag that she knew contained cinnamon rolls. When he saw her, his face lit up in a way that made her chest hurt. "You came," he said, standing up as she approached. "Did you think I wouldn't? I thought there was a 50-50 chance you'd be halfway back to Seattle by now." Ellie slid into the seat across from him. "I thought about it. What stopped you?" "The promise of a terrible cinnamon roll." Nathan laughed and pushed the paper bag toward her. "1 terrible cinnamon roll as requested." Ellie opened the bag. The smell hit her like a memory, sweet and warm and exactly as she remembered. She took a bite and closed her eyes. "Still terrible," she said. "Still your favorite," Nathan replied. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, drinking coffee, watching the morning traffic on the street outside, being 2 people who had kissed last night and now had to figure out what that meant in daylight. "So," Nathan said finally, "we should probably talk about it. The kiss. The kiss. The letters. The fact that we both apparently spent 15 years carrying torches for each other like idiots." Ellie set down her coffee cup. "Were we idiots?" "Objectively, yes." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "But I prefer to think of it as romantically tragic, like a Shakespeare play, but with less death." "So far." "So far," Nathan agreed, smiling. Then his expression grew serious. "Ellie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Why did you leave?" Nathan held up a hand before she could answer. "I know you got a scholarship. I know Seattle was an amazing opportunity, but you didn't just leave Portland. You left us, me, Sarah, everyone. You didn't call, didn't write, didn't come back for holidays or summers. It was like you erased us from your life." Ellie looked down at her cinnamon roll, suddenly not hungry anymore. "I thought it would be easier," she said quietly. "What would be easier?" "Leaving, starting over, becoming someone new." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "You don't understand what it was like, Nathan. You were, popular, smart. Everyone loved you. You fit in everywhere." Nathan frowned. "That's not true." "It is true. You and Sarah, you were like this golden pair. Perfect friends who belonged in the yearbook photos and the student council and all the places that people like me didn't belong." "People like you," Ellie gestured at herself, even though she was wearing different clothes now. Better clothes, a nice sweater, and jeans that didn't come from Goodwill. But inside, she still felt like the girl in her mother's old cardigan. "Poor," she said simply. "Scholarship kid. Worked 3 jobs just to afford the things everyone else took for granted." "I loved you, Nathan. But I also knew that you and I lived in different worlds. And when I got that scholarship to Seattle, I saw it as my chance to finally catch up, to become someone who could stand next to you without feeling like a charity case." Nathan was very still, his coffee cup halfway to his lips frozen. "Ellie," he said slowly, "is that really what you thought, that I was some kind of privileged golden boy? Weren't you?" Nathan set down his cup, carefully, like he was trying very hard not to break something. "I need to show you something," he said. They drove in Nathan's car, an old Honda that had seen better days but still ran. He didn't tell her where they were going, just headed east through Portland until the nice neighborhoods gave way to something rougher, something Ellie recognized. He pulled up in front of a small house. The paint was peeling. The yard was overgrown, but there were flowers in pots on the porch and the windows were clean. "This is where I grew up," Nathan said. Ellie stared at the house, then at Nathan. "But you lived in West Hills, the big house with the pool." "That was Connor's house. Connor West, my best friend from middle school. His parents liked me, so they let me stay over a lot. Like a lot. Basically lived there by senior year." Nathan's hands gripped the steering wheel. "My mom is a nurse, single parent, 3 kids. We weren't poor, but we weren't West Hills." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I was ashamed." Nathan's voice was flat. "Because when I was 14, I realized that if I just didn't correct people's assumptions, they'd think I was someone I wasn't. someone who belonged, so I wore Connor's old clothes, borrowed his address for school forms, let everyone think the fancy house was mine. Ellie's mind was reeling, but Sarah knew. She had to know. Sarah knew I wasn't rich, but she didn't know how much I lied about it. She thought I lived here, but was just private about it. She didn't know I let everyone think I was someone else. Nathan turned to look at Ellie. You want to know why Sarah and I didn't work? Because she figured it out. Right before we broke up, she realized how much I'd been pretending. Not just about money, but about everything. She said she couldn't love someone who didn't exist. Nathan. And she was right. Nathan's laugh was bitter. I spent so many years being a someone I thought people would like that I forgot who I actually was. It wasn't until she left that I realized I'd been doing it since high school, especially around you. Around me, you were so real, Ellie, so genuinely yourself. You didn't pretend to be anything you weren't. You worked 3Gs and wore your mom's clothes, and you didn't apologize for it. And I was terrified that if you knew the truth about me, you'd see through all my bullshit and realize I wasn't worth your time. Ellie reached across the center console and took his hand. Nathan, I wouldn't have cared. I know that now, but 17-year-old me didn't. Nathan squeezed her hand. So when you left, I told myself it was for the best, that you were going to Seattle to become this amazing architect, and I was staying here to teach high school English because that's all I could afford. Different worlds, like you said, except the worlds we thought we lived in were both fake. They sat in silence, holding hands across the center console of his old Honda, staring at the house where Nathan Pierce actually grew up. We were both idiots, Ellie said finally. Catastrophically idiotic, Nathan agreed. We wasted 15 years. We did. Ellie turned to look at him, really look at him, at this man who had spent half his life pretending to be someone else, who had loved her through it all anyway. Nathan, she said, what are we doing? Really, Ba? Honestly, I have no idea. Nathan brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, a gesture so gentle it made her chest ache. But I know I don't want to waste another 15 years wondering what if. I live in Seattle. I'm selling my condo. My whole life is in boxes. I live here. I teach at Lincoln High. My whole life is in this city. So we're impossible. Completely impossible, Nathan agreed. Then he smiled. Want to be impossible together anyway? Ellie laughed, a real laugh that bubbled up from somewhere she thought had gone dry years ago. You're an idiot, she said. So are you, Nathan replied. We'll be idiots together. He leaned across the console and kissed her, softer than last night, sweeter, like they had time now, like they weren't running from anything anymore. When they broke apart, Ellie rested her head against his shoulder. What now? She asked. Now, Nathan said, I take you to meet someone who's been wanting to yell at me for 15 years. Sarah Chen's apartment was in the Pearl District. Modern, expensive, the kind of place that screams success in that understated Portland way. She opened the door wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. When she saw Ellie and Nathan standing together, her expression flickered through several emotions too fast to name. So, Sarah said, you two figured it out. Can we come in? Nathan asked. Sarah stepped aside. I was wondering what you'd show up. The apartment was exactly what Ellie expected. Clean lines, neutral colors, photos on the walls of Sarah's life over the past 15 years. Medical school graduation, trips to Thailand and Iceland. A picture of her and Nathan arms around each other, smiling like they meant it. Sarah caught Ellie looking at the photo. I keep meaning to take that down, Sarah said. But it feels petty. We had good times. Sarah, Nathan started, but she held up a hand. Let me say something first. Before you two give me the speech about how complicated this is. Sarah sat down on her couch and gestured for them to sit. They did side by side close, but not touching. I knew. Okay, I've always known. Known what? Ellie asked. That you two were meant for each other. That I was just borrowing Nathan for a while, keeping him warm until you came back. Sarah's smile was sad. I told myself I was okay with it. That love didn't have to be perfect to be real. And it was real. I really loved him. I loved you too, Nathan said softly. I know, just not the way you loved her. Sarah looked at Ellie. Do you remember junior year when you and I stayed up all night studying for the chemistry final? Ellie nodded. She remembered. They'd drunk too much coffee and gotten slap happy around 3 in the morning laughing at stupid jokes that weren't funny. You told me about Nathan, Sarah continued. You didn't mean to. You were exhausted and your guard was down. You said something about how he was the only person who really saw you, how you felt like you could breathe around him. Ellie's stomach dropped. Sarah, I know you didn't mean to tell me, and I should have said something then. Should have told you that I liked him too, that I was planning to ask him to prom. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. But I didn't. I just filed that information away. And when you left for Seattle without saying goodbye, I told myself it was a sign that Nathan was available, that you didn't want him if you could just leave like that. I left because I thought I wasn't good enough for him, Ellie said quietly. I know that now, but I didn't know it then. I just saw an opening and I took it. Sarah looked at Nathan. And you let me, because you were lonely, because I was there, because I wasn't the girl who broke your heart by leaving. Nathan's jaw was tight. Sarah, you weren't second choice. What we had was real. It was real, Sarah agreed, but it was also doomed, because every time you looked at me, you were wishing I was her. Every time you said you loved me, you were trying to convince yourself it was enough. She stood up and walked to the window looking out at the city. I should have let you go sooner. Should have admitted that loving someone who's in love with someone else is just slow-motion heartbreak. Ellie felt tears burning in her eyes. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. That's what makes it worse. Sarah turned back to them. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither of you did. You just existed. And I loved you both too much to admit I couldn't compete with a ghost. The silence in the apartment was heavy, weighted with 15 years of unspoken truths. Finally, Nathan stood up and walked to Sarah, put his hands on her shoulders and looked her in the eye. You deserve better than someone who can't love you completely, he said. You always did. I know, Sarah said. I'm working on it. Therapy, dating apps, the whole disaster. She managed to smile. It turns out letting go is harder than holding on. Is it? Ellie asked. She was still sitting on the couch watching the two of them, watching the way they looked at each other like old wounds that had finally scabbed over. Sarah looked at her. You're going to find out, Ellie, because loving Nathan means dealing with all the ways you broke him, all the ways he's still scared you're going to leave again, all the years of scar tissue between you. I know, Ellie said. And Nathan, Sarah turned to him, loving Ellie means forgiving her for leaving, for taking 15 years to come back, for being human and scared and imperfect. I know, Nathan said. Sarah stepped back from both of them. Then you're both braver than I am, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't love someone who loved someone else more. I had to let go. She walked to the door and opened it, a clear dismissal. But before they left, Sarah caught Ellie's arm. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you figured it out. I'm glad, her voice cracked. I'm glad I don't have to keep that secret anymore, that you both knew how you felt and just couldn't see it. Sarah, Ellie said, can we still be friends someday? Sarah's smile was watery. Someday, when it doesn't hurt so much to look at you two together, when I've moved on enough to mean it. She squeezed Ellie's arm once. But yeah, someday. They drove to the St. John's Bridge without talking about where they were going. Nathan just drove and Ellie let him watching Portland slide past the windows like a memory she was trying to reclaim. The bridge rose ahead of them, green steel against gray skin, Gothic towers reaching up like cathedrals. It had always been Ellie's favorite bridge in Portland. Something about the way it looked like it belonged in another time. Nathan parked near the overlook. They got out of the car and walked to the railing, looking down at the Willamette River below. I used to come here, Nathan said, after you left. Used to stand here and wonder if you were looking at bridges in Seattle. If you missed this city. If you missed me. I did, Ellie said. All three. But you didn't come back. I was scared. Of what? Ellie leaned against the railing. The metal was cold under her hands. Of finding out that you'd moved on. That you'd found someone who fit into your life better than I ever could. That I'd built you up in my head into this perfect memory and the real you wouldn't match. And now, Nathan asked, now that you know the real me, the guy who lied about being rich, who couldn't make it work with Sarah, who teaches high school English for $45,000 a year and still lives in his childhood neighborhood. Ellie turned to look at him. At this man who was nothing like the fantasy she'd carried and everything she'd actually wanted. Now, she said, I think I might love you more. Nathan's breath caught. Might. I'm scared to say definitely. What if I screw this up? What if I run again? What if you don't? Nathan, I'm a disaster. My marriage failed. My career is on pause. I drove down here for a reunion I didn't want to attend because I was too scared to stay in Seattle alone. I'm 33 and I feel like I'm 17 again, except now I have a divorce decree and a therapist. Nathan took her hand, brought it to his chest so she could feel his heartbeat. Steady, real. Ellie, he said, I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need you to have your life together. I just need you to stop running. What if I can't? Then I'll run with you. We'll figure it out together. The wind picked up cold off the river. Ellie shivered and Nathan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. They stood like that for a long time, watching the water flow beneath the bridge, watching the city wake up around them. I have a crazy idea, Ellie said finally. How crazy? Portland crazy, like life-changing crazy. Nathan pulled back to look at her. I'm listening. What if I stayed, not permanently, not forever, just for a while, to see if this is real, to see if we can make it work? Your job is in Seattle. I'm on sabbatical. My boss thinks I'm dealing with the divorce. I could work remotely, come down here on weekends, or, I don't know, figure it out. Nathan was very still. You'd do that. I'd try, if you want me to. Ellie, I've wanted you to stay for 15 years. Then it's settled, Ellie said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. I'll extend my hotel reservation. We'll date like normal people. Take things slow, see where this goes. Take things slow, Nathan repeated, smiling. We've been in love for 15 years. I think we've already done slow. Then we'll do fast slow. Is that a thing? It's a thing now. Nathan kissed her then, right there on the overlook with the St. John's Bridge rising behind them like a blessing. And Ellie kissed him back, tasting coffee and hope and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks later, Ellie's hotel room had to become something like a home. She'd extended her reservation twice, bought a small coffee maker and a cheap desk lamp, set up her laptop on the desk, and worked her remote architecture projects while looking out at downtown Portland. It wasn't Seattle, it wasn't her condo with the view of the Sound, but it was starting to feel like something. Nathan came over most evenings after school. They'd cook dinner together in the tiny kitchenette, bad pasta, burnt chicken, one memorable disaster involving a slow cooker and what was supposed to be chili. They'd eat on the floor because there was only one chair, talk about their days, watch old movies on her laptop, fall asleep tangled together on the hotel bed that was too small for two people. It was domestic and strange and terrifying and perfect. But they hadn't talked about what came next, about what happened when Ellie's sabbatical ended, about Seattle or Portland or any kind of future that lasted longer than tonight. Sarah had texted once, a simple message, coffee sometime. When you're ready, Ellie had responded, soon, I promise. But she hadn't followed through. Some wounds needed more than 3 weeks to heal. It was Friday night when Nathan showed up at her hotel room with a bag from the grocery store and a nervous energy that made Ellie suspicious. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing's wrong. Nathan set the bag down and ran a hand through his hair. That gesture again. I want to cook you something. Something real. Not our usual disasters. Okay. What brought this on? It's been 3 weeks. I know. 3 weeks of seeing you every day. Of falling asleep next to you. Of having you here in Portland, in my life. Nathan was pacing now, not looking at her. And I keep waiting for it to feel less miraculous. For the novelty to wear off. For the part where I remember all the reasons this is complicated. Ellie's heart started to pound. And it's not happening. It just keeps getting better. You keep getting better. Nathan finally looked at her. So I want to cook you dinner. Something nice. Something that shows I'm trying. that this isn't just some extended reunion hookup. You think this is a hookup? No, God, no, but I'm scared you do. Ellie walked over to him and put her hands on his face, forcing him to look at her. Nathan, she said, I left my entire life in Seattle to stay in a hotel room that smells like industrial cleaner and eat your terrible cooking. If this was a hookup, I'd have gone home after the first burnt chicken. Nathan laughed, a shaky, relieved sound. The chicken was really bad. It was terrible. So was the chili. Unspeakable chili. They stood there in the middle of the hotel room, foreheads pressed together, laughing like idiots. What's in the bag? Ellie asked finally. Nathan kissed her nose. Ingredients for risotto, my mom's recipe, the only thing I know how to cook that won't result in food poisoning. Risotto in a hotel kitchenette. I told you I was trying. They cooked together, Nathan stirring the risotto with careful attention while Ellie chopped vegetables and tried not to cut herself. They bumped into each other in the tiny space. Hip checks and stolen kisses between stirs. The kitchen timer going off. The smell of butter and parmesan filling the room. It felt like playing house, except it wasn't playing. When the risotto was done, they sat on the floor and ate straight from the pot because Ellie only had 2 bowls and they were both dirty. This is really good, Ellie said. My mom would be proud. Does she know about me? Nathan paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. She knows I'm seeing someone. She doesn't know it's the girl I've been in love with since high school. Why not? Because telling her makes it real, makes it permanent. And I'm scared that if I say it out loud, you'll realize what you're doing and run back to Seattle. Ellie set down her spoon. Nathan, I need to tell you something. His expression shifted, guarded. Okay. My sabbatical ends in 4 weeks. Silence. Okay, Nathan said again. And I've been thinking about what happens after that, about Seattle and Portland and where I actually want to be. And Ellie took a breath. And I don't know, I don't have an answer yet, but I know I don't want to go back to my old life, the condo that feels empty, the job that stopped meaning anything, the version of myself that was just going through the motions. So what do you want? I want to figure out who I am when I'm not running. I want to see where this goes. She gestured between them. I want more risotto nights and terrible chili attempts and falling asleep next to you. But I also need to be realistic. I can't live in a hotel forever. I need a job, a real place, a life that isn't in limbo. Nathan set down a spoon and took her hands. Ellie, what are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, really try, not just extended vacation trying, but building something real trying. She squeezed his hands. I'm saying I want to look for a job here, in Portland, find an apartment, see if we can make this work when it's not just stolen moments in hotel rooms. Nathan's eyes were bright. You mean it? I'm terrified, but yes, I mean it. Ellie Morgan, Nathan said slowly, are you saying you're moving to Portland for me? I'm saying I'm moving to Portland for us, for me, for the chance to stop running and actually build something. Ellie felt tears on her cheeks, happy tears, terrified tears. Is that okay? Nathan didn't answer with words. He pulled her into his lap and kissed her, deep and desperate and full of 15 years of wanting. The risotto pot tipped over. Neither of them cared. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. It's more than okay, he said. It's everything I've wanted since I was 17 years old. Even though I'm a disaster. Especially because you're a disaster. I like disasters. They cleaned up the spilled risotto together, then climbed into the too small bed and held each other in the dark, listening to Portland traffic outside the window. Nathan, Ellie said quietly. Yeah, I'm still scared. Me too. What if we screw this up? Then we'll figure it out, together, like disasters do. Ellie smiled into the darkness. Disasters together. Disasters forever. Nathan agreed, and for the first time in 15 years, Ellie felt like she was exactly where she belonged. 6 weeks later, Ellie's laptop screen displayed her 15th rejection email in 3 weeks. Thank you for your interest in the senior architect position. We've decided to move forward with candidates whose experience aligns more closely with our current needs. Translation. You've been out of the game too long. Your sabbatical looks like a gap. Your Seattle credentials don't translate to Portland's smaller market. She closed the laptop harder than necessary. The apartment she'd rented was small, a studio in southeast Portland with windows that faced a brick wall and plumbing that sang opera at odd hours. But it was hers, not a hotel room, not temporary, a lease with her name on it, a commitment. Except now she wasn't sure she could pay next month's rent. Her phone buzzed. Nathan. Nathan, dinner tonight, I'm making the thing. The thing was his mom's lasagna, the only other dish in his repertoire besides risotto. They'd been rotating between the two for weeks now, and Ellie was starting to understand why Nathan had survived on takeout before she arrived. Ellie can't. Job interview. Well, informational interview. Well, coffee with someone who might know someone. Nathan, that's still an interview. You've got this, Ellie. Have I told you that you're annoyingly optimistic, Nathan Daly? It's part of my charm. Ellie smiled despite herself, set down her phone and stared at the brick wall outside of her window. She'd been in Portland for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of playing house with Nathan. 6 weeks of pretending that love was enough to build a life on. But love didn't pay rent. Love didn't explain the gap in her resume. Love didn't make Portland's architecture firms suddenly interested in hiring an out-of-town architect with a failed marriage and a career on pause. Her phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't Nathan, a known number. Hi. Ellie, this is Sarah. I know it's been a while. Coffee for real. This time Ellie stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back Morrison's Bakery. Tomorrow morning, the response came immediately. See you there. Sarah looked different. She'd cut her hair short, pixie cut that made her look younger and older at the same time. She was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual put-together style. When she saw Ellie, she didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. You came, Sarah said. You texted. Ellie slid into the seat across from her. Same corner table, same terrible cinnamon rolls. Different conversation. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me. I wasn't sure either. Sarah wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. But my therapist says I need to stop avoiding difficult things. So here I am, facing a difficult thing. I'm a difficult thing. You're the most difficult thing. Sarah's smile was sad. You and Nathan, this whole situation. The fact that I'm genuinely happy for you both and also deeply irrationally jealous. Ellie didn't know what to say to that, so she broke off a piece of cinnamon roll and chewed slowly, buying time. How is it, Sarah asked, living here, being with Nathan? Ellie paused, choosing her words carefully. It's everything I thought I wanted, and also nothing like I imagined. That's cryptic. He's perfect, Ellie said. Too perfect. He brings me coffee in the morning. He leaves notes on my bathroom mirror. He's patient when I'm spiraling about job rejections. He never gets angry or frustrated or human. Sarah laughed, actually laughed. Oh God, he's doing the thing. What thing? The thing where he tries so hard to be the perfect boyfriend that he forgets to be a real person. Sarah leaned forward. He did the same thing with me at the beginning. Notes, coffee, never disagreeing about anything. It drove me insane. What changed? I picked a fight. Sarah's smile was knowing. Made him get angry, made him show me the messy parts. It was the only way to get past the performance. Why are you telling me this? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because I want you to succeed, both of you. I want this to work even though it hurts to watch. Because you both deserve to be happy, and maybe together you can be. She reached across the table and squeezed Ellie's hand. But you need to see all of him, not just the version he thinks you want. Sarah, Ellie said softly, are we okay? Can we be friends again? Someday, Sarah said, when it doesn't hurt so much, when I've moved on enough to mean it. She pulled her hand back. But for now, I can at least not hate you. That's progress. It is, Ellie agreed. They finished their coffee in companionable silence. When Sarah left, she hugged Ellie at the door. Brief, awkward, but real. Pick a fight, Sarah said. Trust me. Nathan showed up at Ellie's apartment that night with groceries and his usual smile. I know you said no dinner, he said, but I figured you'd be hungry after your interview thing, so I brought lasagna ingredients we can cook together. Ellie looked at him, at his hopeful expression. At the grocery bag full of effort, at the way he was already heading to her tiny kitchen like he belonged there. Something inside her snapped. No, she said. Nathan stopped, turned. No, no lasagna, no cooking together, no this. Ellie gestured at the space between them. I need you to leave. Nathan set down the grocery bag carefully. Ellie, what's wrong? Everything is wrong. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. I can't find a job. I can't pay my rent. I'm living in a shoebox apartment in a city where I don't know anyone except you and my ex-best friend who's in therapy because of me. And you're here making lasagna like everything is fine. I'm trying to help. You're trying to fix things. There's a difference. Nathan's jaw tightened. So what do you want me to do? Leave you alone. Stop caring. I want you to stop being so perfect. Ellie's voice rose. I want you to get angry, to tell me I'm being difficult, to show me that you're human, and this is hard for you too. You think this isn't hard for me? Nathan's voice was quiet, dangerous. You think I'm not terrified every single day that you're going to wake up and realize this was a mistake, that you're going to get back in your car and drive to Seattle, and I'll be standing here like an idiot again? Then why don't you act like it? Because I'm scared. Nathan's voice cracked. I'm scared that if I show you how terrified I am, how much I'm barely holding it together, you'll see that I'm not worth the sacrifice you're making. Ellie stared at him. What sacrifice? Your career, your life in saddle, your whole future. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. That gesture again. But this time it looked desperate. You gave up everything to come here, and I'm a high school English teacher who can barely afford rent. What kind of future is that? So you think I made a mistake? I think you deserve better than barely scraping by in Portland with someone who can't give you the life you could have had. The words hung between them like a blade. Nathan, Ellie said slowly, do you want me here? Of course I want you here. Then why does it feel like you're waiting for me to leave? Nathan's face crumpled. He sat down on her couch, head in his hands. Because everyone leaves eventually, he said to the floor. My dad left when I was 8. You left when we were 17. Sarah left 3 years ago, and you're going to leave again because that's what people do when they realize I'm not enough. Ellie felt something crack open in her chest. She crossed the room and knelt in front of him, putting her hands on his knees. Nathan, she said, look at me. He did, his eyes red-rimmed, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I'm not leaving, Ellie said. I'm here. I'm struggling, and I'm scared. And I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm here, with you, and I need you to trust that. How can I trust it when I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop? Because I'm asking you to. Ellie took his face in her hands. I'm asking you to stop performing. Stop trying to be perfect. Show me the messy parts. Show me the scared parts. Let me see all of you, not just the version you think I want. Nathan leaned into her touch. What if you don't like what you see? What if I do? They sat like that for a long time. Ellie kneeling, Nathan leaning into her hands. The apartment quiet except for the opera singing pipes and the sound of Portland traffic outside. Finally, Nathan spoke. I'm terrified of losing you, he said. Every single day, I wake up and look at you sleeping next to me, and I think this is a dream, that I'm going to wake up and you'll be gone again. I'm terrified too, Ellie admitted. I'm terrified I made the wrong choice, that I gave up my career for something that won't last, that I'm going to end up alone in the city with nothing. So we're both disasters. Complete disasters. Nathan pulled her up onto the couch next to him, wrapped his arms around her, and held on like she might disappear if he let go. What do we do now? He asked into her hair. I don't know, Ellie said honestly. But maybe we stop pretending we have all the answers. Maybe we just figure it out as we go. Together. Together. They ordered pizza because neither of them felt like cooking, ate it on the floor of Ellie's apartment, talked about real things. Nathan's fear of abandonment, Ellie's fear of failure, the ways they were both broken and trying to pretend they weren't. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a movie scene with Dihizen. It was just two people being honest with each other for the first time in 6 weeks. And somehow it felt more real than all the coffee and notes and perfect gestures combined. A week later, Ellie got a call. The woman on the other end introduced herself as Jennifer Park from Cascade Architecture. They'd spoken briefly at a networking event 3 weeks ago, one of those informational interviews that felt like polite rejection disguised as advice. "I know this is last minute," Jennifer said, "but we just had a senior architect leave unexpectedly." I remembered our conversation. "Are you still looking?" Ellie's heart hammered against her ribs. "Yes, absolutely yes." "Can you come in tomorrow, 10 a.m.? I'll be there." When she hung up, she stood in the middle of her apartment phone, still in her hand, not quite believing it was real. Then she called Nathan. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, I was just about to text you. Want to come over? I'm grading papers and could use the company." "I got an interview," Ellie blurted out. "A real one, for a senior architect position." Silence on the other end. Then, "Ellie, that's amazing. When?" "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Cascade Architecture. That's one of the best firms in Portland, and I know." Ellie sat down before her knees gave out. "Nathan, what if I get it? Then you'll be employed. That's good news. But what if I don't? What if this is my last chance and I blow it?" "Then we'll figure something else out," Nathan said calmly. "But Ellie, you're not going to blow it. You're talented and experienced, and they'd be lucky to have you." "You have to say that. You're my boyfriend." "I'm saying it because it's true." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Come over. We'll practice interview questions. I'll make you tea. We'll pretend I know anything about architecture." Ellie laughed. "Okay, I'm coming over." "Good. And Ellie, yeah, whatever happens tomorrow, we're going to be okay." She wanted to believe him. She really did. When Ellie arrived at Nathan's place, he had tea ready and a notebook full of interview questions he'd Googled. They spent 2 hours doing mock interviews with Nathan, playing the stern hiring manager, and Ellie trying not to laugh at his terrible acting. Afterward, they lay on Nathan's couch, tangled together in the comfortable way they'd developed over the past weeks. Nathan's fingers traced patterns on her arm. Ellie's head rested on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Can I tell you something?" Nathan said quietly. "Always. I've been thinking about those letters, the ones we wrote 15 years ago." Ellie shifted to look up at him. "What about them?" "I've read mine probably 100 times since the reunion. Every word, every comma." Nathan's expression was distant. "And I realized there's something on the back of the page. Something I forgot I wrote." "What is it?" Nathan reached for his wallet on the coffee table, pulled out a folded piece of paper. The letter. Worn at the edges from being folded and refolded. He turned it over and showed her the back. In Messier handwriting, like it had been added as an afterthought, were 3 lines. "P.S. If you're reading this someday years from now, and you're wondering if I still mean it, I do. I will always mean it. Even if I'm 80 years old and you're married to someone else, and this is just a stupid letter from a stupid kid, you were my first real love. You'll probably be my last." "Anim." Ellie's eyes filled with tears. "Nathan, I wrote that the night before graduation, after I'd already written the letter and chickened out of giving it to you. I thought maybe someday I'd be brave enough to show you. Or maybe I'd find it when I was old and laugh at how dramatic I was." Nathan's voice was thick. "But I meant every word. 15 years later, I still mean it." Ellie sat up and pulled out her own phone, opened her photos, found the picture she'd taken of her letter before folding it back up and putting it in her desk drawer. "I did the same thing," she said, showing him the screen. "Look at the back." Nathan squinted at the photo. On the back of her letter in her 17-year-old handwriting, "P.S. This is probably stupid. You probably don't feel the same way. But I'm writing it anyway because Ms. Chen says in English class that love letters are about being brave enough to say the truth. So here's my truth. I think I could love you forever if you let me. And if you don't, I'll still be glad I told you. Because at least you'll know someone saw all of you and loved what they saw." Nathan stared at the photo for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Real laughter that shook his shoulders. "We're idiots," he said. "Complete idiots." Ellie agreed, laughing too. "We wrote each other love letters with postscripts basically saying this is forever, and then spent 15 years apart. In our defense, we were 17 and dramatic. We're 33 and still dramatic." Ellie kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of 15 years of meaning it. "Nathan," she said against his lips, "I still mean it too. Even though I'm a high school teacher who makes terrible lasagna. especially because of that. They made love that night with a tenderness that felt like promise, like something being built rather than something being taken. Afterward, they lay in Nathan's bed wrapped around each other, watching the Portland rain streak down the windows. Whatever happens tomorrow, Nathan said, we're going to be okay. This time, Ellie believed him. Ellie wore her best suit, the one she'd bought for her Seattle job interviews 3 years ago. It still fit, but it felt like someone else's armor. Cascade architecture occupied the top 2 floors of a renovated building in the Pearl District, floor-to-ceiling windows. Exposed brick, the kind of space that screamed success in a city that valued authenticity. Jennifer Park met her in the lobby. Warm handshake, kind eyes. Thanks for coming on such short notice, Jennifer said as they walked to the conference room. We're in a bit of a scramble. Our senior architect accepted a position in San Francisco last week. We need someone who can jump in quickly. I can do that, Ellie said, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. The interview was intense. 3 hours of portfolio reviews, technical questions, design challenges. They asked about her Seattle work, her sabbatical, the gap in her employment. Ellie was honest about the divorce, about needing time to figure out what she wanted, about choosing Portland because she was building something new. She didn't mention Nathan, didn't mention letters or reunions or 15-year love stories. Just talked about her work, her passion for sustainable design, her ideas for Portland's growing architecture scene. When it was over, Jennifer walked her back to the elevator. We'll be in touch by the end of the week, Jennifer said. But Ellie, off the record, I really hope this works out. Your portfolio is impressive. Your ideas are fresh. We need more architects who care about community-focused design. Thank you, Ellie managed. In the elevator, she let herself breathe, let herself hope. Her phone buzzed as she stepped outside. Nathan, how did it go, Ellie? I think I might have actually done okay. Nathan, that's my girl. Celebratory dinner. I'll try not to burn anything. Ellie Morrison's instead. I could use a terrible cinnamon roll. Nathan, meet you there in 20. Nathan was already there when she arrived. 2 coffees on the table. 2 cinnamon rolls. That same corner by the window where everything had started 6 weeks ago. You did it, he said when she sat down. I don't know if I got the job yet. But you did the thing. You showed up. You tried. Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. That's what matters. Ellie looked down at their joined hands, at the way his fingers fit perfectly between hers, at the calluses on his thumb from grading papers with a pencil. Nathan, she said, can I tell you something? Always. When I drove down here 6 weeks ago, I thought I was coming to a reunion. Just one night, a walk down memory lane, then back to Seattle to figure out my real life. I know. But somewhere between that parking lot kiss and burning chili and fighting about lasagna, this became my real life. Ellie squeezed his hand. You became my real life, and that terrifies me. Why? Because what if I screw it up? What if this job doesn't work out? What if we can't make it long term? What if we're just running on nostalgia and it fades? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his letter. The one from 15 years ago. Set it on the table between them. Read the postscript again, he said. Ellie unfolded it carefully. Read the words she'd already memorized. You were my first real love. You'll probably be my last. I wrote that when I was 17, Nathan said. And I meant it. But now at 33, I mean it even more. Because I've lived 15 years without you. I've dated other people. I've tried to build a life that didn't include you. And it never felt right. It never felt like this. Like what? Like home. Nathan's eyes were bright. Ellie, you're not my nostalgia. You're not my teenage dream. You're my right now. My messy, complicated, terrifying right now. And I don't care if it's hard. I don't care if it takes time to figure out. I just care that we're figuring it out together. Ellie's throat felt tight. What if I don't get this job? Then you'll find another one, or you'll freelance, or we'll move to Seattle if that's what you need. I don't care about the logistics, Ellie. I care about you. You'd move to Seattle. I'd move anywhere. Nathan smiled. I spent 15 years staying in one place waiting for you to come back. I'm done waiting. I'm ready to move forward, wherever that takes us. Ellie felt tears spilling down her cheeks. Happy tears, terrified tears, tears that tasted like cinnamon and coffee and coming home. I love you, she said, the first time she'd said it out loud since they'd reconnected. I love you, and it scares the hell out of me. Well, you too, Nathan said. And same. They sat there at Morrison's bakery, holding hands across a table, sticky with sugar, crying and laughing, and being disasters together. 3 days later. The call came on Thursday afternoon. Ellie was in her apartment working on a freelance project that barely paid enough for groceries. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Portland, area code. She almost didn't answer. Hello, Sissam. Ellie, this is Jennifer Park from Cascade Architecture. Ellie's heart stopped. Hi, Jennifer. I'm calling with good news. We'd like to offer you the position. Senior architect starting salary of $90,000 with benefits and a signing bonus. Can you start in 2 weeks? The words took a moment to sink in. When they did, Ellie had to sit down. Yes, she said. Yes, I can absolutely start in 2 weeks. Excellent. I'll send the offer letter this afternoon. Welcome to the team, Ellie. When she hung up, Ellie sat in her apartment phone in her hand, staring at the brick wall outside her window. She got the job. She was staying in Portland. This was real. She called Nathan. I got it, she said when he answered. I got the job. Nathan's whoop of joy was so loud she had to pull the phone away from her ear. Ellie, that's amazing. When do you start? 2 weeks, 90,000, benefits. It's real, Nathan. It's actually happening. I'm coming over. Right now. I'm leaving school early. I'm bringing champagne. We're celebrating. You hate champagne. I'll learn to love it. For you, I'll learn to love anything. Ellie laughed. You're ridiculous. Ridiculously in love with you. That was terrible, Teo. I'm a literature teacher, not a poet. Nathan, to you, yeah. Thank you for believing I could do this. Always Ellie, always. 6 months later. The coffee shop opened at 6 a.m. Ellie had developed a routine. Wake up at 5:30, run 3 miles through Laurelhurst Park, shower, walk to Morrison's, order coffee and a terrible cinnamon roll, work on design sketches until it was time to head to the office. Nathan thought she was crazy for waking up so early, but he'd started joining her on weekends, stumbling into the bakery half asleep, grumbling about morning people. This morning was Saturday. Nathan arrived at 6:15, hair sticking up, wearing the sweatpants Ellie had bought him because his old ones had holes. You're a monster, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. You love me anyway. Questionable. Ellie smiled and pushed a cinnamon roll toward him. I got you the thing. You're forgiven. They sat in companionable silence. Ellie sketching. Nathan reading a book for his American literature class. Outside, Portland was waking up. Rain had started again, that soft drizzle that felt like home now. Hey, Nathan said, looking up from his book. Hey, I have something for you. Ellie set down her pencil. Is it your latest cooking disaster? Because I'm still traumatized by the pot roast incident. That was one time, and it wasn't my fault the recipe was in Celsius. You live in America. I was distracted. By what? By you. Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. I'm always distracted by you. Ellie's heart did that thing. That stupid, wonderful thing where it forgot how to work properly. Nathan Pierce, she said, are you being romantic at 6:15 in the morning? I'm trying. He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Not the letter from 15 years ago. A new one. I wrote you something. Another letter. A better letter. One that's not from a scared 17-year-old, but from a slightly less scared 34-year-old. Ellie took the paper, unfolded it carefully. Ellie, remember when we were 17 and too scared to tell each other the truth? Remember how we wasted 15 years because we thought love had to be perfect? To be real, I've spent 6 months watching you build a life here. Watching you wake up early to run in the rain. Watching you pour your heart into designs that make this city better. Watching you be brave in ways I'm still learning. And I've realized something: love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, day after day, coffee after coffee, terrible dinner after terrible dinner. So here's what I'm asking. Will you keep showing up? Will you keep being my disaster? Will you marry me? I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I also know I don't want to waste another day pretending I haven't been planning forever with you since I was 17. All my love. Nathan P.S. The ring is in the cinnamon roll. Sorry, I panicked. Ellie looked up from the letter to Nathan's terrified face to her cinnamon roll. You put a ring in my cinnamon roll? I told you I panicked. I already took a bite. I know I was sweating the entire time I thought you were going to swallow it. Ellie started laughing, hysterical, happy, disbelieving laughter. She broke apart the rest of the cinnamon roll carefully and found it. A small diamond ring covered in frosting. It's disgusting, she said. It's romantic, Nathan argued. It's disgusting and romantic. So is that a yes? Ellie looked at him. At this man who had loved her for 15 years, who made terrible lasagna and wrote her letters and proposed with pastries, who had shown her that love didn't have to be perfect to be real. Nathan Pierce, she said you're an absolute disaster. Is that a yes? It's a yes. Nathan's smile could have lit the entire city. He stood up, crossed to her side of the table and kissed her. Right there in Morrison's bakery at 6:20 in the morning in front of the early bird regulars who probably had better things to do than watch two people be disasters together. When they broke apart, Nathan took the ring and cleaned it off with a napkin. Then he slipped it onto Ellie's finger. Perfect fit. How did you know my size, she asked. I asked Sarah. You asked Sarah? She was surprisingly helpful, said something about being happy for us, that she's dating someone new, some doctor she met at a conference. Really? Nathan sat down next to her instead of across from her, put his arm around her shoulders. We're all going to be okay, Ellie. All three of us. Different kinds of okay, but okay nonetheless. Ellie leaned into him, looked at the ring on her finger, at the man next to her, at the coffee shop that had witnessed all their beginnings. I can't believe I'm marrying someone who proposes with baked goods. I can't believe you said yes. Me neither. They sat there as the sun rose higher, as more people filtered into the bakery, as Portland woke up around them and life continued and everything stayed messy and imperfect and exactly right. Hey, Nathan, Ellie said. Yeah, I still mean it. What I wrote 15 years ago about loving me forever, about being glad you know someone saw all of you and loved what they saw. Nathan kissed her temple. I still mean it too. You're my first love and my last love and every love in between. That's corny. I'm a literature teacher. It's in my contract. Ellie smiled, took a bite of what was left of her cinnamon roll, still terrible, still her favorite. Outside, the rain continued to fall, soft and steady and sure. Inside, two people who had spent 15 years finding their way back to each other finally stopped running and stayed. 1 year later. The invitation was simple. Cream-colored paper, elegant script. You're invited to celebrate the marriage of Eleanor Morgan and Nathan Pierce Morrison's bakery, Portland, Oregon small ceremony. Smaller reception. Terrible cinnamon rolls provided Sarah Chen stood in front of her closet holding the invitation, trying to decide if she was brave enough to go. Her boyfriend Marcus, the cardiologist she'd met at that conference, came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Are you going? He asked. I don't know. Is it weird to go to your ex-boyfriend's wedding? Is it weird that your ex-boyfriend is marrying your former best friend and they want you there? When you put it like that, everything sounds weird. Marcus kissed her neck. Life is weird. Go anyway. Sarah looked at the invitation again, at the casual tone, at the humor even in something as serious as a wedding invitation. Very Ellie, very Nathan. She made her decision. The bakery was closed to the public for the afternoon. String lights hung from the ceiling, flowers on every table. About 30 people, small and intimate and exactly what Ellie and Nathan wanted. Sarah arrived early, nervous, wearing the blue dress Marcus had said made her look fearless. Ellie saw her first. You came, Ellie said. She was wearing a simple white dress, no veil, no train, just her looking happier than Sarah had ever seen her. I came, Sarah confirmed. Is that okay? It's more than okay. Ellie hugged her, tight and real and meaning it. I'm really glad you're here. Me too, Sarah pulled back. You look beautiful. I look like I'm getting married in a coffee shop. You look happy. I am. Ellie's smile was incandescent. I really am. Nathan appeared then also in simple clothes. Nice pants, white shirt, no tie. When he saw Sarah, he came over and hugged her too. "Thanks for coming," he said, "and thanks for everything, for helping me pick the ring, for not hating us." "I could never hate you," Sarah said honestly. "Either of you, even when I wanted to." "How's Marcus?" "He's good, really good," Sarah smiled. "He's meeting me here after. I wanted to come alone first. Face the thing you know." "We're not a thing," Nathan said gently. "We're just people. People who care about you, who want you to be happy." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I am. Happy, I mean. It took a while, but I am." "Good," Ellie said, taking Nathan's hand. "That's all we ever wanted." The ceremony was short. A friend of Nathan's from the English department officiated. There were no dramatic vows or grand declarations, just simple promises. To show up, to be honest, to love each other through the disasters. When Nathan kissed Ellie, everyone cheered. Sarah found herself cheering too. Later, eating terrible cinnamon rolls and drinking champagne, Sarah sat with Marcus and watched Ellie and Nathan dance in the small space they'd cleared between tables. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked. "Yeah," Sarah said, surprised to realize she meant it. "I really am." "No regrets." Sarah watched Ellie laugh at something Nathan whispered in her ear. Watch the way they moved together like they'd been doing it for years instead of months. Watch the way they looked at each other like they'd discovered something precious. "No regrets," Sarah said. Just relief that they finally figured it out, that we all did." Marcus took her hand. "Want to dance? In a coffee shop. Why not everyone else is?" Sarah let him pull her onto the makeshift dance floor. Let herself be happy for the people she'd loved. Let herself move forward into something new. Because that's what life was. Moving forward. Finding new loves, new beginnings. New chapters and stories that refused to end just because one version didn't work out. And as the sun set over Portland, in a bakery that smelled like sugar and coffee, and possibility, everyone danced. Even the disasters, especially the disasters.